Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing something that I can't even really explain why I've decided to do this. I'm going to rank my favourite lines from every episode of season 6 of Doctor Who, specifically based on the way that they're delivered. So I feel like sometimes if you're talking about lines that you really like, it's lines that were written really beautifully or that really fit in the scene or something intellectual like that. But I am such a huge fan of Doctor Who, Exhibit A, and I re-watch the episodes over and over again, and then I get specific lines just ingrained into my brain and the way that they're said and the particular inflections, and I have them collected in my head and I want to share them. So what I'm going to do is I have written down all of my favourite lines from each episode based on their delivery, and I'm going to take you through each one for each episode, and then after I've done the lines for the first episode, I will pick one that will then carry on and we'll do the second one, and then I'll pick one from the second one, and then by the end we'll have 13 lines, and then I'm going to pick my favourite overall delivery of all 13 episodes of season 6 of Doctor Who. Now, I picked season 6 because it was the first season that I remember watching as it came out. So it came out in 2011, and if I didn't have the memory of my parents to tell me this, I wouldn't know that the first season I watched all the way through as it came out, like literally as the episodes were released, was season 5. I wouldn't know that. I went back and I rewatched it, but I was so young that I don't remember watching it as it came out, but I did. I was 5 years old. Who let me near Doctor Who at 5 years old? We move on. So season 6 is the first one that I actually remember watching. Every single week I would wait for Doctor Who. I was obsessed. It was bad. There are actually a couple of episodes from this season specifically that kind of scarred me. Even rewatching them this time, I was like, ooh, because I was 6 years old, okay? We can give me a little bit of grace. I was 6 years old. Some of this stuff is scary, okay? And some of them I rewatch now and I'm like, I understand why I found that so scary at the time, but it's fine now. There are 2 episodes in this series. No. Anyway, I'm just going to dive straight into it and I'm going to give you all of my thoughts as we move through. Let's go, I guess. We're starting off very strong with episode 1 of season 6, which is The Impossible Astronaut. I have watched this and part 2 of this run of episodes more times than I can count. I can say these episodes almost backwards. It's one of those where you've seen it so many times that you may as well have written the show. That's how well you know it. So there are quite a few lines from these first 2 that I really, really love. The first one being, "And in fairness, the universe did blow up."
Except he's done it before. And in fairness, the universe did blow up.
It did blow up, yeah. I love the delivery of this so much. It's so dry, and the actor who plays Rory, he's very, very good at that. There are a couple of his lines that will come up as this video continues that he's just so, deadpan with it, and I find it deeply amusing. The second contender...
I'm being extremely clever up here, and there's no one to stand around looking impressed. What's the point in having you all?
This line lives rent-free in my head. When I was 7 or 8 years old, I don't know what it is about my brain, but I store away bits of dialogue that I like how they're said, and this one was one of them, and it would be midday and it would just pop into my head and I would have to resist the urge to say it out loud because I love the way, what's the point in having you all? And he's upside down as he says it. It's just insane. I love Matt Smith. I love his delivery, and this one is a very strong contender. This one I can already feel might be the winner of this episode. I haven't picked the winners. I'm going to do it on vibes as I film. The third contender is...
There's loads of boring stuff like Sundays and Tuesdays and Thursday afternoons.
I think this single line shaped how I see Thursday afternoons. The vibes of Thursday afternoons, not for me. Not for me. I could have a brilliant Thursday afternoon. Great things could take place. The vibes are never good. I do wonder if it's because I watched this when I was 6 years old and was like, Thursday afternoons, the doctor doesn't approve, so neither do I. I love the way he says it through like gritted teeth, and then he does the thing with the TARDIS where like flicks the levers. I love his physical acting. 10 out of 10. The fourth of the 7 is very much not in need of getting shot.
No shoot.
Ready to shoot us either. Very much not in need of getting shot.
I love how he slices the words up. Again, Arthur has a very kind of deadpan way of delivering things often, and I find it very satisfying. Oh my god, I love this one. This is another one that like just lives in my brain, and occasionally I will reach for it and it'll just play in my head. I'm psychotic.
Dangerous. Mr. President, that man walked in here with a big blue box and 3 of his friends. And that's the man he walked past. One of them was worth listening to.
It's the inflections that do it for me. Mr. President, that man walked in here with a big blue box and 3 of his friends. And that's the man he walked past. Like, Canton 8, okay? He's so sassy. He's so sassy. It's the sassy man apocalypse, guys. The 6th line from episode 1 is, oh, those lights, they never fix them.
Oh, those lights, they never fix them.
I love how she says it. That's something I say just like in my life. I'll go like, they never fix them. Whenever I can apply that, I just love how she says it. Again, you don't need the context. And then another example of Matt's delivery, the 7th and final line for episode 1 is, those are the worst kind.
Life signs?
No, nothing that's showing up.
Those are the worst kind.
I just love how there's so many layers to each doctor, and I feel like Matt does such a brilliant job of balancing this kind of innocent, childlike vibe with really old, dark, dangerous vibes. He's asking River if there's any life signs showing in these undiscovered tunnels, and she says, no, none that are showing up. And he goes, those are the worst kind. I just love how he's like, oh, god damn it. Like, the way he delivers that. I have to pick one of these. Before I do, an honourable mention to the face that River makes when she opens the letter right at the beginning of the episode. She does this, like, slow smile thing. Alex Kingston's facial expressions, no notes. I think the winner has to be, I'm being extremely clever up here and there's no one to stand around looking impressed. What's the point in having you all? I don't think I could ever let another line delivery beat that one. So we're going to move on to episode 2. So the first 2 episodes of the season are a 2-parter, so this is a continuation of the first episode. I'm going to do a quick honourable mention to the very beginning of this episode where the doctor says the line, why don't you ask her? I'm going to give you a tiny bit of context because I just love this moment and I want to mention it. So Canton, who is the guy in the suit, he says, we found these strange markings on Amy's arm. What are they? And he throws these pictures on the ground where the doctor is, and the doctor looks at them, and then he looks at Canton and he says, why don't you ask her? And then Canton pulls this face of like, but it's so good. And then the doctor looks back at the pictures and it's very clear that the pictures of her arm with the marks on, she's lying on the floor like it's giving dead. It's giving deceased.
Why don't you ask her?
There's some great acting in this show. I will be the first to admit that Doctor Who is an extremely goofy show, but the acting carries it. Like, it is what it is because the actors are so good. The moment you put actors in this show that aren't good enough to carry it, it becomes extremely unserious. I won't get into that. The first line for the second episode is, there's always a way out.
There's no way out this time.
There's always a way out.
Now, not only is this a great motto to live by, I love the way she says it. It's one of Alex Kingston's lines, and she just, I don't know, something about her voice and the way she says things. She's got a very rich voice. There are quite a few of her lines in here, and I will have very similar justifications for each one that pops up because she's got a very satisfying voice, and I love the way that she speaks. So that is number one. I'm going to give you no context to that. The second line for this episode is such like a throwaway line. I don't know why this one just scratches my brain the right way. Like, I don't understand why this one stands out to me, because I feel like anyone else who watches Doctor Who would be like, why that line? But there's a moment where the Doctor's talking about someone and he goes, they could have done this, but they probably did this because why bother doing anything else? The way he says it, you can hear it.
Yeah, they'd probably stay close to that warehouse because why bother doing anything else? And they
Just something about it. Honestly, just Matt Smith's flow going from line to line and the way he kind of manages to make it feel like this natural rhythm. I just love how he does it. And that is honestly one of my favourite line deliveries from this episode. And I think the fact that it is also a bit innocuous. Innocuous. Is that the word? I'm just going to Google what innocuous means. I don't think innocuous is the word I was looking for. This next one's kind of iconic. The Doctor breaks into Apollo 11 and does something to the ship, and then he closes it and he goes, don't worry, I put everything back exactly where I found it. And then this line that will be up for consideration is,
Except this. There's always a bit left over, isn't there?
because yes, there is. There's always a bit left over. I love when he gets unserious, because what do you mean you broke into Apollo 11 and then didn't put everything back where you found it, you freak? A little honourable mention is from the consequences of that scene where he gets arrested because he's broken into Apollo 11. He gets handcuffed and he bites his handcuffs as if that's going to do anything.
Well, maybe if you just get President Nick.
Again, love Matt's physicality as the Doctor. Like, it's just so... I can't. Line 5 for this episode is Rory breaking something on a little model of the space capsule and then going, America salutes you, in the most British accent you've ever heard. Does the British salute with the palm facing forward and then goes back into the TARDIS.
America salutes you.
It's so awkward. It takes entirely too long. It's so English. And I just love it. Next line, still for this episode. This episode has a lot of lines that I really, really like. Like I say, these first 2 episodes of this season, I've seen probably the most of the entire season. I rewatch these whenever I need any kind of comfort. So do with that information what you will. So this line is the Doctor's line, and it's incredibly strong and running away. I like her. Which I think sums the Doctor up a little bit.
She climbed out of this suit. Like, she forced her way out. She must be incredibly strong.
incredibly strong and running away. I like her.
I actually really like the delivery from both Alex and Matt in this scene. So Alex is River Song and Matt is the Doctor. And they have this like exchange that I just find, again, they must have just found this sweet spot of acting where they can just bounce off each other and they're both, it's so rhythmic. And I love the inflections. There's just something so satisfying about the way that they say things. Not one line delivery is wasted. They don't ever half-ass a line. And I just love it. This next one is so iconic for this episode. You should kill us all on sight.
You should kill us all on sight.
It's so satisfying. And they play it so many times that you do, after one watch of the episode, have a good idea of the inflections of this line. It's from one of the aliens, and it's just so satisfying. I'm gonna play it again.
You should kill us all on sight.
Like, come on, I love it so much, and it's so this episode. You play that for any Doctor Who fan, they know exactly which episode it is. The next line is the first one that will come up of Amy, and she basically just absolutely devours the aliens. You're ugly. Has anyone mentioned that to you?
You're ugly. Has anyone mentioned that to you?
Like, fair, you know, she's tied up, she's pissed off, and you're ugly. And you know what, she doesn't get a lot of wins in this episode, so I'm gonna give her that one, you know. This next one is a lot less lighthearted than the theme has been, but just the level of emotion behind these 2 words, it gets me every time. River kisses the Doctor. The Doctor is like, "The fuck you doing, Queen?" She goes, "You're acting like we've never done that before." And he says, "We haven't." And she goes, "We haven't." And I'm going to play it for you.
We haven't.
We haven't.
Oh, look at the time.
It's so... You can see her heart breaking because she knows, for context, River and the Doctor, their lives are back to front. So the very first time he meets her, she dies. In that episode, she knows him extremely well and he's never seen her before. And then basically as the show continues, he gets to know her, but it's very hard to explain. Their timelines aren't synced up because they're both time travelers. So when she kisses him, he's like, "Oh, we've never done that." And then she's like, "Oh, that means that I'm never going to do that again." Because every time she meets him, he's younger. So does this make any sense? It's irrelevant. The point is, she's realizing in that moment that she will never, probably ever, get to kiss him again because he doesn't know that they do that. Does that make sense? It's all in her eyes and it's beautiful and I love it and I thought it deserved a mention. Okay, we've got 3 more for this episode. This one is another of Amy's lines and I just love it. It's just so satisfying the way she says it. There's basically a scene where she thinks she's pregnant and then she realizes that she's not pregnant and the Doctor goes, "Why did you tell me that you were pregnant?" And she goes, "'Cause I was. I thought I was. Turns out I wasn't."
I was. I mean, I thought I was. Turns out I wasn't.
And the way she drags the out, I just love it. It's so satisfying. This one is Arthur again being comedic and awkward and I just always love it. It never gets old. He comes out from behind a corner and he goes,
Hello.
and it's the way his voice kind of wobbles like, "Hi." I love it. It's very awkward and it's on the list. And the final one, again, this one became somewhat of a vocal stim where I would just say this just randomly.
Little girl. Are you okay?
"Little girl, are you okay?" I love how he says, "Are you okay?" This is what I spend my time thinking about. Someone should get a job. That's all the lines that I picked out from the second episode. So I need to pick one. I love how she says there's always a way out, but I don't think I love it enough for it to be overall the winner. Why bother doing anything else it's a strong contender.
It's that warehouse because why bother doing anything else? And
I think it has to be that. Why bother doing anything else? And again, I say that all the time. If I can get that into a sentence, being friends with me is insufferable. I hope you're learning. Every other sentence is just a line from something I've watched. And it's such a niche line that even people who watch the show are like, "What?" Because it's not even like I'm quoting memorable moments. If I did the whole "you could kill us all on sight," when on earth that would be relevant in a conversation, I don't know, but at least it's recognizable. Why bother doing anything else with the specific inflections of Matt Smith? I don't really see how that's quotable, but it's winning. It's my video. Episode 3 is The Curse of the Black Spot. This I don't rewatch as often. I will give you a kind of idea at the beginning of every episode how much I watch that episode, because do you know what? I don't watch entire seasons of Doctor Who start to finish. I just click on Doctor Who and then whatever I'm in the mood for that day, I'll click one of the episodes and you can watch them standalone pretty easily. And I was pleasantly surprised by how strong of a season this is. Obviously, because of course, I wouldn't love it so much if it wasn't a strong season, but watching it start to finish and actually getting to see the overall plot take place chronologically and seeing all the little clues and hints and the tension building and things that didn't add up, and I thoroughly enjoyed. Really, really strong writing in my opinion. Episode 3, The Curse of the Black Spot. I don't watch this one as often, and everything I picked are all things that I picked as I was watching it rather than knowing the line was coming and waiting for it. So starting with Comfy Sofa, which I'm going to give you absolutely no context for, but here's the delivery.
No, comfy sofa.
I just love when an actor makes a choice. I love when an actor makes a choice and it just gives you a second to be and then you move on. And I don't feel like we get that enough in TV shows. at the moment. You know, everything feels very like staged and planned, and I just feel like there's so many things that they do in Doctor Who that I just know the actors did on the spot and they went, that's funny, we'll keep that in. Like, it's just gold, isn't it? Second one is an interaction between the Doctor and another character. So the other character says, I'm confused. And the Doctor says, yeah, well, it's a big club. We should get t-shirts.
I'm confused.
Yeah, well, it's a big club. We should get t-shirts.
Which is funny. Props to the writers. But again, it's Matt that makes this line. Love how he says it. And it's one of those ones that they're having a conversation that is quite serious and they're trying to figure out like what's going on, and there's like this big mystery, and it just kind of caught me off guard, which is why I wrote it down. I love when he just kind of gets to the end of his tether a bit, which takes us on to the next one very nicely. In this episode, there are pirates, and one of the pirates says to the Doctor, you can't throw this treasure out. This is the treasure. It's from like a princess of some sort or something. And the Doctor goes,
Oh, good, for a moment there, I thought it was yours.
it's just like the exasperation behind, he's like, for the love of God, it's not even your treasure, man. Let it go. Those are the only lines for this episode. I think Comfy Sofa is going to have to win. It's so unserious.
No, comfy sofa.
Why did he say it like that? I love it. We're going to move on to episode 4. Episode 4 is called The Doctor's Wife, and is another one that I don't watch that often, but I enjoyed it a lot more than I was expecting to. I tend to avoid episodes that I think are going to be quite emotionally taxing. So if I'm sitting down and I've got lunch and I just want to watch something while I'm eating lunch, I don't really want to go through the 5 stages of grief as that happens. And this is quite a traumatizing season, and there are some very traumatizing episodes of Doctor Who. And I'm quite a sensitive individual. Okay, and this is one that I remember finding quite difficult to watch. There are a couple of scenes with Amy and Rory, for those of you who know, who've seen the show, when, what's the planet called? House. When House has them in the TARDIS and they're like running around and then they get separated, and then Rory grows old in the span of like 2 minutes for Amy, but it's been like thousands of years for him. And then all on the walls it's like, kill Amy, hate Amy. Like, it's awful, especially with the context of the previous season and him having waited for her. I guess in my mind the reason it is so uncomfortable is because if anyone in the world hated Amy, the fact that it's Rory, who there's no one on the planet that could love Amy more than Rory does, and the fact that he's driven to attacking her, and I don't like it. Anyway, it's actually a very small portion of the episode, and the rest of it I quite enjoyed. The first line for this episode is right at the beginning, and it's when the Doctor receives this like cube in outer space, and he goes, I've got mail, and he's just ecstatic.
I've got mail.
And I love his delivery, and I love how excited he is about it. It's just adorable. The next line is, again, a really like throwaway one. I don't know why I pick these, like why they scratch my brain a certain way, but the Doctor's talking about a Time Lord that he used to know, and he goes, fantastic bloke, like that.
Of the Corsair, fantastic bloke.
I just love it, so I wrote that down. This next one genuinely made me laugh out loud. I had to pause, rewind it, and just enjoy it for a second time. There's a character who's behaving in like a kooky way or whatever, and then she faints, and one of the characters goes,
Whoa! Is that it? She's dead now. So sad.
Like completely deadpan, like, oh, she's dead, oh, so sad. It just made me laugh, and he's not a character that comes up again, like he's only in this episode, and I just thought that was a fun addition for him. The next one is, this is the first one that I've selected that shows a bit more of a dark side to the Doctor. That is one of my favourite things about Matt Smith's Doctor, is how he has an incredibly young face, but really old eyes, and he can really pull off the like dramatic, dangerous delivery that he manages to do in these episodes. So this one is, you gave me hope and then you took it away. That's enough to make anyone dangerous. God knows what it'll do to me.
You gave me hope and then you took it away. That's enough to make anyone dangerous. God knows what it will do to me.
I don't think there's anything more I need to say on that. This one is a stupid one, and I love it. It's one of Amy's lines, and the Doctor has locked her and Rory in the TARDIS to keep them safe. They're on the phone. He says, I've unlocked the door. She says, you stupid well haven't.
But I've unlocked it!
Stupid well haven't.
That is how best friends converse with each other. You stupid well haven't. No, you haven't. We're trying the door. I love it. Another dry delivery from Arthur. I had a PE teacher just like you.
That's what Auntie and Uncle were for, wasn't it? Someone to make suffer. I had a PE teacher just like you.
And the best thing about that line is that he's talking to like a multi-dimensional being. Like, who are you talking to? Penultimate line for episode 4. This one really gets me. One of the characters is, what is it called? Like telepathically speaking to Rory. And she goes, get out of the way. We're coming in. You'll be vaporized if you're standing in the spot that we appear in. Rory goes, well, where are you going to land? She goes,
Where are you coming through?
I don't know.
Oh, great.
It makes me laugh every time. She's so like unbothered. She's like, I don't know where we're gonna land. And then the final one is kind of a silly one again. Matt Smith's doctor has a bit of an affinity for bunk beds because of everything that's happened in the TARDIS. Amy and Rory need a new bedroom, and he's like, oh, I'll design you a new bedroom. And then Rory like whispers to Amy, and Amy's like, could we maybe skip on the bunk beds this time?
Lose the bunk beds.
No, bunk beds are cool. A bed with a ladder.
A bed with a ladder. And it's just another classic Matt Smith delivery that I'm absolutely deeply obsessed with. If I had to pick a line from these, this one's difficult. Because again, this isn't one that I come and rewatch a ton. There weren't any lines that I was waiting for that have like made their way into my vocabulary or into just like things I say on a loop in my head. So everything I wrote down was just as they were said. I was like, that's funny. I'm torn between you stupid well haven't and I had a PE teacher just like you. It's the way Amy like hits him afterwards, like, this is not the time.
I had a PE teacher just like you.
I might go with that one because it's like completely the wrong time to be saying something like that, but that's kind of Rory's MO. Episode 5, The Rebel Flesh. We are now entering enemy territory. I have such aggressive beef with these episodes. The Rebel Flesh and episode 6, The Almost People, are a two-parter within the series. I think, including this watch, I've only ever seen them 3 times each. I lie, the first one I've seen 3 times. The Almost People I've only seen, I think, twice, including this watch. This is one of the main core memories I have of watching this season as it came out. The Rebel Flesh scared the crap out of me as a child. I was hiding behind things. You know when people are like, oh my god, little kids hiding behind the sofa? I was hiding behind the sofa. And then I don't think I watched The Almost People when it first came out, which is diabolical when you know right at the end of that episode there's a huge plot reveal. Huge. And I just skipped it because I could not deal with these. They're so funky looking. It's the only episode of Doctor Who that I watch now and it still makes me feel nauseous. I got 2 lines that I liked enough to write down each from these 2 episodes because these episodes are not for me. They didn't even have that many lines in them that could comedically save them. I'm gonna go through them. Okay, so episode 5, The Rebel Flesh, we have an automated voice says halt and remain calm, and the doctor says,
well, we've halted. How are we all doing on the calm front?
And I thought that was quite funny. I like how he delivers it. Also, Amy just looks kind of like terrified in that moment. I love when the doctor's like making stupid little comments and his companions are just like, what's happening? This one's so stupid. This is the second and final one that I got for this episode. The doctor says the line, I've got to get to the cockerel before all hell breaks loose. And then the line that I love is he says,
I never thought I'd have to say that again.
What? Like, what? Those are my favourite kinds of lines in Doctor Who, is when the Doctor's just saying shit. You just have to accept it and move on. Episode 6, The Almost People, part 2 of this 2-parter. There's 2 doctors. I'm going to give you absolutely no explanation as to why there's 2 doctors.
Is that what you were thinking?
Yes, it's just so inspiring to hear me say it.
And I just love the way they interact with each other because most of the line deliveries that I absolutely adore are Matt Smith. And 2 Matt Smiths interacting with each other, it's just exactly what I need from a show. And then the second one, I don't remember this. I feel like I should have. I think I saw it like once a few years ago. And I don't remember this at all. The doctor gets locked in a room with a few other people. where on earth he gets Roranicus Pondicus from. And what's even more hilarious is Rory's name is not Rory Pond, it's Rory Williams. So there's just layers to it. So I'm going to pick one from the Rebel Flesh, which I think has to be, well, we've halted, how are we all doing on the calm front? I just found that very funny. And then Roranicus Pondicus takes the cake for the Almost People. The next episode is episode 7, which is A Good Man Goes to War. Now, if you have missed the events of episode 6, the events of episode 7 are wild. Bear in mind, I watched episode 6 for the first time like 2 years ago, and I went, oh, because there was something missing and I'd never quite clocked what it was. And like I say, I don't really watch it start to finish as a series. I just pick and choose what I'm in the mood for. And I remember watching that. I don't know why I did it. I was like, I need to have seen every episode. I can't have 1 or 2 episodes that I've never seen before. I'm just going to watch it so that I've seen it, so that I know I've seen it. And then we got to the end. There's a huge thing that happens at the end of that episode. Anyway, A Good Man Goes to War. We've got quite a few for this one because I rewatched this one rather a lot. First one is...
Oh, turn it off. I'm breaking in, not out. This is River Song back in her cell.
I love how Alex speaks. I love her voice itself. It's so velvety. The way she speaks is so melodic. This is a strong contender. I love this line, and I love how she says it, and I love how she's kind of like swaying back and forth as she says it. It's just gorgeous. The second line for this episode is delivered by the Doctor, and to cut a long story short, there is an army that wants to kill him. There's like an army that's coming together, and the Colonel does a big speech in front of all of them, and then the Doctor pops up out of nowhere as he does, and he goes,
Please, point a gun at me if it helps you relax.
We're only human.
I love the rhythm of this scene, and I love the power that he holds, and I love that he does it in such a casual way. Like, he's so casual about how much he terrifies other people, and I don't know, man. Love that one. This one, again, really random. Another one that I feel like people would be like, why that line? I just find it so satisfying the way he says it. Again, the Colonel is speaking to his troops, and he's talking about how the Doctor is trying to make a fool of them, and he says, we are not fools. And he says it like that.
We are soldiers of God. We are not fools.
I had that in a loop in my head after hearing that for the first time. We are not fools. I just love how he says it, and that's that on that. The next line is, good men don't need rules. Today is not the day to find out why I have so many. And I will play this for you because I can't do it justice.
Good men don't need rules. Today is not the day to find out why I have so many.
I love how he delivers it. I love the reaction of the person he's talking to. I love how it's written. It's just all round one of my favourite lines, potentially from the entire show, not just from this episode, so very strong contender there. This next line, I adore. It's not one that comes to mind when I think of this episode, like it's not ingrained in my brain the way some of the other ones are, but I love it, and it just sums up the show perfectly.
Stuff, and Rory wasn't even there at the beginning. Then he was dead, then he didn't exist, then he was plastic.
Which, factually, is correct. If you've never seen this show, truly brace yourself. He wasn't there in the beginning, and then he was dead, and then he didn't exist, and then he was plastic, and genuinely that's true. Who wrote this show? My God. Okay, next line from this episode. The Doctor says to one of his friends, how can a Time Lord be a weapon? And his friend says, well, they've seen you. And the Doctor goes, me?
Why would a Time Lord be a weapon?
Well, they've seen you.
Me?
And the way it reminds me of the reason I picked the "we haven't" line from River.
We haven't.
We haven't.
And it's like you can see the moment she feels that gut punch. And this line is similar, the way Matt delivers this. Vastra says, well, they've seen you. And he goes, me? As if to say, like, I love when actors can act. I love it. Again, it's quite a simple line, and you wouldn't necessarily, you don't pick it for the substance of the line. He's just saying me, you know, it's not, I can really appreciate when you can see exactly what that character is feeling in that moment. Like, that was a huge moment for him. That was a big moment of realization, and to be able to encapsulate it all in one word, obsessed. The last 3 lines of this episode are all Alex Kingston. I'm just going to give them to you quickly because I have very similar reasoning for each one. The first one is, this was exactly you. All this. All of it.
This wasn't me.
This was exactly you. All this. All of it.
It's punchy. I love the inflections. I love her voice. I'll move on. And they're going to turn her into a weapon just to bring you down. And it's specifically just to bring you down. The way she says that, I'll play it.
And they're going to turn her into a weapon just to bring you down.
It's just, oh, she's just got this beautiful, like, I just want to bottle her voice. It's insane. And then the final one for this episode is, except they don't have a word for pond because the only water in the forest is the river.
Except they don't have a word for pond. Because the only water in the forest is the river.
What I love about that line as well is there's kind of a subtle reveal in it, but she doesn't emphasize it too much. She's kind of already told you what she's revealing in this scene, but there's still room for the big reveal. You don't need context to know that that is a beautiful line. Now I have to pick one for episode 7. I'm stuck on I'll turn it off, I'm breaking in, not out. We Are Not Fools, weirdly, is really, really fighting. Rory wasn't even there in the beginning, then he was dead, then he didn't exist, then he was plastic. And also, good men don't need rules. Today is not the day to find out why I have so many. That's 4. How am I supposed to pick? I think it's going to have to be, and I feel very upset about this because there are at least 2 that I would love to win this one. But I think it has to be Good Men Don't Need Rules. Today is not the day to find out why I have so many. Because there's so many layers to it. It's delivered incredibly. The reaction from the other character is incredible. And then the writing, like the line itself. I love how it was actually written, which I know this is about line delivery, but there are layers to it. And when it's this close between lines, I need to be harsh. Oh, there's so many good lines in this episode. Now we are on to episode 8, which is titled Let's Kill Hitler. This is the episode that inspired this video. I must have seen this episode so many times because there are so many lines in this episode that just live in my brain. You'd be surprised how often they're applicable to everyday things that happen, because I go to say them and then I realise that no one's going to understand the reference and it bums me out every time. One of which is the very first one that I've written down, which is,
And look, the lip!
I love how she gets extra Scottish, more Scottish than usual. I'm going to give you no context. I say that all the time. You would be surprised how often that actually can be used in certain situations. Now, I raised this with my sister because I was like, you know, there's so many things that I reference and no one will ever understand what I'm talking about, and this was one of them. And we were watching that episode and I went, this moment right here, and she goes, now loop the loop. I do that all the time. No one ever knows what I'm talking about. So now Rachel knows what I'm talking about. Whenever there is an appropriate moment, we both look at each other and we go, loop the loop. That one is an extremely strong contender for this episode because it is one of the main reasons I made this video, along with the next 2 lines, which are both delivered by child actors, which I think is why I love them so much. There's something about the way child actors speak. Sometimes it's horrendous and other times it's bad enough that it's funny. I love this one so much. Young Rory comes into young Amy's room and goes, I thought we were playing hide and seek. I've been hiding for hours.
I thought we were playing hide and seek. I've been hiding for hours.
I just love the way he says hours. It gets me every time. And then the third one is, I count as a boy.
I'm the most in trouble in the whole school except for boys. And you? I count as a boy.
All 3 of those, when I decided I was going to make this video, they were the first 3 lines that came to mind. They're just ingrained in my brain. They're never getting out. This next one, I don't know why this became such a vocal stem for me, because it's so aggressive.
Welcome. You are unauthorized. Your death will now be implemented. Welcome. You will experience a tingling sensation and then death.
I Love it. I think it's the robot voice. It's the way it's said, and it's also the fact that, again, it's repeated in the episode, so you hear multiple times, "Welcome, you are unauthorized. Your death will now be implemented." And it's the way they welcome them first. "Welcome, your death is imminent because you're not authorized to be here." Oh, this is such a banger of an episode. It's just comedic moment after comedic moment. Then there's the moment where Rory has to put Hitler in the cupboard.
Right. Putting Hitler in the cupboard. Cupboard. Hitler, cupboard. Right.
And it's everything I could want from a Doctor Who episode. Putting Hitler in the cupboard. The next line from this episode I think might be one of the most famous among Doctor Who fans, which is, "You named your daughter after your daughter."
Yeah, I named my daughter after her.
You named your daughter after your daughter.
However lost you feel right now, that's how it feels to be a Doctor Who fan. We don't really know what's going on either. I couldn't not include that because it's just too iconic. The next line is from Alex saying she's just regenerated, so she's got a brand new body and also a brand new voice box. Good for her. And she goes, "I'm all sort of mature."
I'm all sort of mature.
And the way she says mature, because we haven't had her in the episode yet, like this is her first scene in the episode, it emphasises her voice a lot, I think. I could talk for hours about Alex Kingston's voice, and I fear that's simply what this video has devolved into, is just me talking about how much I love Alex Kingston's voice. I just love how she says it. I love that she does sound mature. She does. This next line is such a strong contender from Rory. He goes,
"Is anybody else finding today just a bit difficult?"
And it's the look on all three of their faces. To be fair, it's been a crazy day so far, but I just love how he says that, and he does sound genuinely distressed, and they all look genuinely distressed, and it's just kind of amusing. Another line from Rory, which is one of my favourites. Amy says, "Look for clues," and she's Scottish, so it comes out clues, and he goes,
"Oh no, look for clues."
Clues? What kind of clues?
Shut up.
And it cracks me up because he has had enough. He has had enough of this fuck-ass day, of everything that's going on. She's telling him to look for clues, and it's just, I just love it. I just love it. This last one kind of caught me off guard because, again, it's one that I didn't remember from the episode. I love when there's an episode that I've watched like 50 times and then I'm watching it again and I hear a line that I just completely forgot was there.
Unknown.
Oh, well, fat lot of use that is, you big ginge.
Well, fat lot of use that is, you big ginge. He's talking to a robot version of Amy. What the f*** is this show? It's not until I start giving like minimal context to stuff that I'm like, that sounds insane. He's talking to a robot version of Amy and she doesn't give him the answer that he wants.
Oh, well, fat lot of use that is, you big ginge.
And then I just wanted to do an honourable mention to a screenshot near the end of the episode. This is River Song's first episode as River Song, so she has... How do I explain this? She hasn't been River Song before. She regenerates from Melody to River. And so she's very young in that moment, especially how we see River through the seasons, because she does have this sort of feeling of knowing who she is, and when she walks into a room she takes up space and she does not apologize for it. And in this episode she's so unsure of herself and she's so confused by everything that's happening, and she looks so young. And I don't mean that in like a, you know, they've made Alex look younger. I just mean the way Alex acts in that moment, in her eyes more than anything else. She looks so innocent and confused and kind of wide-eyed, like, what's going on? Like, in this one still, I don't know, man. I love this season and these characters, this run of storylines. I just absolutely love what they do with these characters. I have my problems with River, to be perfectly honest, but I think that Alex does such an incredible job, and it's such a complicated storyline and dynamic, and I just needed to take a moment for that screenshot because I just think that's so impressive that she manages that. From this episode, if we're going purely on delivery, which in fairness is what I said we were doing, I think it's between
And look, the lip! I count as a boy.
And
Is anybody else finding today just a bit difficult?
I really like Is Anyone Else Finding Today Just a Bit Difficult? But if we're talking lines that are just on rotation in my head, it's either Loop the Loop or I Count as a Boy. I love how she says that. I think it has to be Loop the Loop. I think it has to be. It was the catalyst for making this video. I don't think we can give it to anything else. Episode 9, Night Terrors. In my notes, I put shout out to Amy's outfit. And I did that before we got a full frame of her in the outfit. Turns out I liked her scarf and her jacket. Everything else? No comment. This one only had 2 lines that I picked out. Again, this isn't one that I watch often, and it's also, I find, to be quite a tough watch. Not because it's terrifying. To be fair, the dolls in this, there are dolls in a dollhouse, and they borderline gave me nightmares as a child. Watching it now, I'm fine. It doesn't have the same effect that like the Rebel Flesh still has on me. But the dolls, when I was a kid, I couldn't watch this. I watched it once and then I never touched it again. And then when I got older, I could come back to it. But when I was a kid, 6 years old, awful. The first line I've picked for this episode is based purely on the fact that Matt Smith's accent slips a little bit. So when he's the doctor, he's very well-spoken, and he sounds, posh is the wrong word, but he definitely makes sure that he's pronouncing things, he's enunciating, if you will. And I will. There's a line he goes, I've been around the block a few times, more than a few. They've knocked down the blocks I've been round and built them as bigger blocks.
They've knocked down the blocks I've been round and rebuilt them as bigger blocks.
He kind of slips into, I don't know if you've seen like Matt Smith interviews, but he has a much less considered way of speaking than the Doctor speaks.
God knows what it will do to me.
They've knocked down the blocks I've been round and rebuilt them as bigger blocks.
And I actually really like the way Matt Smith naturally talks. It's more like London accent, and occasionally he'll say something as the Doctor, and I can see Matt peeking through purely because of the way he's pronounced something, and this is one of them, and I had to include it because I just love when he kind of lets his accent slip a little bit. And then the second one is, I've got to invent a setting for wood, it's embarrassing.
What? I've got to invent a setting for wood, it's embarrassing.
I included this partly for delivery, but partly because I love this running joke that the sonic screwdriver doesn't work on wood. I think the line that will have to win for this episode, though, is they've knocked down the blocks I've been round and rebuilt them as bigger blocks, because it's 1, funny, and 2, I just love how he says it, and we don't get a lot of Matt relaxing his accent too much, so whenever we get that, it always makes me smile. Episode 10 is The Girl Who Waited. I don't rewatch this one very often, and rewatching it this time was reminded why. I mean, it's not awful. It's a good episode. I sound like I'm saying it's bad. It's not. It's quite emotionally taxing. I find it to be quite emotionally taxing. Basically, Amy gets stuck in a different time stream, and they try to rescue her, and they end up, they're 36 years too late, and she is obviously 36 years older, and she's very jaded, and she's very, I don't believe you anymore when you say you're going to come and get me, and it's like, it's got a little kick to it. I think they do get their Amy back in the end, 20-something-year-old Amy, they get her back, but the exchange between Rory and older Amy, it's very emotional and it's very moving, I think. But there are a couple of lines that I picked. So they're talking about going to the second, it was like selected as like number 2.
Appalachia voted number 2 planet in the top 10 greatest destinations for the discerning intergalactic traveller.
And Rory goes, why can't we go to number 1? And the Doctor goes,
hideous! Everyone goes to number 1, planet of the coffee shops.
And I thought that was really amusing, so I wrote that down. It's the disgust in his tone that sells the line. It's just so funny. Do I only have 2 lines for this? I do. I only have 2 lines. This was quite a serious episode, and there weren't many lines that I picked up that I was like, ooh, in love with that delivery. The second one is,
small act of vandalism, no one will mind. That'll be the small act of vandalism alarm.
Comedic timing, brilliant, on point. Out of the 2 I've picked for episode 10, I think the winner has to be, Everyone Goes to number 1, Planet of the Coffee Shops, because he's just so sick and tired of other people. He wants to go to the beautiful planets that haven't been monopolized by tourists. Okay. Episode 11, we are reaching the tail end of the season. This is called The God Complex. I have 7 lines from this one that I have to choose from. The first one, again, I've never registered this as a line. Maybe this is my first time ever watching this episode specifically with subtitles on, because I played it back and I was like, huh? The Doctor is talking to Amy and Rory and he goes, Amy, Beaky, this could be the most exciting thing I have ever seen. Beaky?
I don't see any huge hats.
Amy, Beaky, this could be the most exciting thing I have ever seen.
You're kidding.
I think I could deduce that this is meant to be a reference to the fact that Rory has a large nose. I don't understand this narrative because I don't think he's got that big of a nose, but it is something that comes up here, obviously, the beginning of season 5 and then also mid-season 7. The fact that he supposedly has a large nose comes up. I don't know if I agree. Amy, Beaky? Crazy. The next line is in relation to a woman that they meet. The 3 of them are in this like hotel type place. It's a planet that is a hotel. I won't expand. And they meet a woman who says something very intelligent and the Doctor goes, Amy, with regret, you're fired. And I found that deeply amusing.
Oh, she's good. Amy, with regret, you're fired.
What?
I'm kidding.
Especially because Amy takes it personally. I love the almost companions. Do you know what I mean? If you've seen Doctor Who, you know that there are the companions that never quite get to be companions, but they show promise. And there's just something about them. The woman in this episode is called Rita. Justice for Rita, because I love Rita. And I'm going to spoil it. Rita does die. But I love her dynamic with the Doctor. I love when people are switched on. There's so many annoying characters in Doctor Who, and occasionally you will come across the ones that, you know, are paying attention and have something to say and actually apply logic to situations. But she is one of them, and I do love Rita. The next line is actually a line from Rita. They're all trapped in a hotel, and Rory goes, have you tried the front door? And Rita goes,
No, in 2 days it never occurred to us to try the front door. Thank God you're here.
And Amy actually laughs out loud. I love when characters respond in scene to funny things that are said, because oftentimes in Doctor Who, like, the Doctor will quip and say things and no one will laugh because they're just like, ugh, he's saying annoying things again. But obviously as an audience, you're supposed to find it funny. I love when people say funny things in scene and then in scene characters laugh, because we're all allowed to laugh when people say funny things, okay? Don't know what that's about. The 4th line from this episode, Rita says, there are things in the room. And then the Doctor says,
Things? Hello! What kind of things? Interesting things. I love things.
I love how he says that. And I love the kind of like up in pitch. Hello! The 5th line is also from the Doctor. It's his facial expression combined with his tone that I find so interesting. The way he delivers it and the way he deals with other people. He doesn't always make it clear what his opinion of something is, even if he very obviously has an opinion. Everyone is quite creeped out by this character called Joe, and the Doctor clearly has his own opinions about this character Joe, but he disguises them enough for it not to be obvious to other people there that he clearly feels some type of way, but to us you can see, I don't know, it's all in his eyes. It's the way the line is.
Something to add, Joe.
Joe starts laughing while someone else is speaking, and the Doctor kind of slowly turns to him, and he's got this very specific smile on his face and a very specific look in his eyes, and he goes, something to add, Joe. And it's just, I love when actors can act. I love it. Because you could pick up so many things from that line. And I pick up so many things from it that, you know, someone else watching might pick up about 10 other completely different things. And that is what I love about it.
Is there something here with us?
Something to add, Joe.
Second to last line from this episode that I picked was, I love this line so much.
That's my favourite car. How did you know that was my favourite car?
Showed me a picture of it once and said, that's my favourite car.
You showed me a picture of it once and said, that's my favourite car. I don't know, I just love it. I love the moments where you can see that they're all friends and they care about each other, and just the casual friend interactions I really like, because you don't always get a lot of them when it's high stakes situations, you know. And then the final line for episode 11 I've picked is completely based on delivery. It's quite sad.
You can't just drop me off at my house and say goodbye like we shared a cab.
And what's the alternative? Me standing over your grave?
He's talking about dropping Amy and Rory off at their house and letting them live their life before they die, basically travelling with him. And there's just something so heavy in the way that he says it, and I really, really love it. Out of these lines, I think I am torn between...
Something to add, Joe.
And
what's the alternative? Me standing over your grave?
They're both lines from Matt, and they're both lines that carry so much more behind them. If I'm looking at the bigger picture of like having 13 lines to pick between at the end of this video, I feel like I should pick what's the alternative, me standing over your grave. But there's something about something to add, Joe. It's so silly in the sense that no one would remember that line from the episode, but there's so much behind it. I think I have to pick that one. Okay, brace yourselves. Penultimate episode. Episode 12, closing time. I have picked 5 for this episode. The first one is iconic. Oh, you've redecorated. I don't like it.
Oh, you've redecorated. I don't like it.
It's a different house. We moved.
Yes, that's it.
This one comes up again, I'm sure many a time, but the one that springs to mind immediately is in The Day of the Doctor, when David Tennant's doctor says to Matt Smith's doctor, oh, you've redecorated, I don't like it. And he's talking about the TARDIS, because they all have different designs of the TARDIS. I absolutely love the delivery. David Tennant's delivery in The Day of the Doctor is identical to this one, so it's definitely a direct reference. So this line will always have a special place in my heart. The second line, I love this line. It's not stored in my brain in the way some other lines are because it's a bit longer, but it does pop into my head every now and again. The doctor gets a job in a shop, good for him, and he goes,
Oh, well, I'm the doctor. I work in a shop now, here to help. Look, they gave me a badge with my name on in case I forget who I am. Very thoughtful, as that does happen.
I just love, there's like different moods within certain sections of the sentence. Like he just sort of switches between playfulness and genuine appreciation, and it's just, I just love it. The next one is another one that is so not noticeable as a line because it's one word, but again, it's the delivery that I just love. The doctor is looking for clues.
Clues? What kind of clues?
And he's walking away because he doesn't think that he's getting anywhere when he's asking people questions. And then this woman goes, oh, and then there's the silver rat. And he turns around slowly and he just goes, what?
And then there's that silver rat thing.
What?
He's like amused and exasperated, and it's just, I love it. Fourth line for this episode is again carried by Matt and his genuine disgust that he just infuses into it.
A Cyberman? I thought he was a little silver rat.
It's not a rat. It's a Cybermat.
All right, have a go at me because I don't know the names.
It's not a rat. It's a Cybermat. And it's the way he looks so disgusted and so like, it's not a rat. Funnily enough, this is another one that I don't really remember and kind of caught me off guard on the rewatch. I was watching it and I was like, that's gold, the way he says that. So that one definitely is a great addition. And then the final line for this episode is,
You never really escaped us, Melody Pond.
the way her voice sounds and the way she like uses different pitches, inflections. I definitely get hooked on certain lines because I've heard them so many times. So I memorize the inflections and how someone says something, and then it just becomes something that I have stored in my brain, and that is one of them. And whenever I hear it, it's like knowing the words to a song. That's how I would describe it. A lot of these lines, it's you hear them and you can just say them with the exact timing and rhythm and melodic nature that they do it, because you've heard it so many times that it just becomes ingrained. If I'm picking from those 5 lines, I think it has to be You've Redecorated, I Don't Like It, just for the greater implications that that line has and how it's carried through. And when I heard it, it made me do like a stupid little giggle because I was like, I understand that reference. And we have made it to the finale of this season. I have not included the Christmas special in this video. One, because I think I want to do a separate video covering Doctor Who Christmas specials, and two, because I won't lie to you, I don't love the Christmas special for this season. I was looking at it, I'd just done like 3 days straight of watching Doctor Who, which, you know, is great, but I like to vary my activities. I'd kind of got to a point of like, I'm glad it's nearly over kind of thing. And then I finished the finale and I looked at the Christmas special and I thought, should I? And I was just like, no. It's my channel, it's my video, I don't want to watch it. So, season finale, episode 13, The Wedding of River Song. We have 5 lines. I was just going to lie down and take it, but you know what? Before I go, I'd like to know why I have to die. I love that line.
I was just going to lie down and take it, but you know what? Before I go, I'd like to know why I have to die.
The Doctor discovers that his death is a fixed moment in time, and as he says, he was just going to lie down and take it, but he then kind of creates this plan of how he's going to evade death, basically. Good for him. I just love that line. I love the conviction behind it. I love that he's taking action. He's spent a long time running away from it and just kind of hoping that it'll go away. And then through this line, it's very much like, I'd like to know what's going on, please and thank you. And I really like how he says it. Second line, well, I think I just drained my weapon systems.
What have you done?
Well, I think I just drained my weapon systems.
I love how she says this because it doesn't fit in the scene at all. River Song is in an incredibly emotional scene with the Doctor. I won't spoil what happens. She's like mid-sob and then she drains her weapon systems. And the tone change, like the vibe shift is fucking hilarious. I love how she says it. Again, it's Alex's voice, so what more could I want? Third line from this episode.
A needle stuck on a record.
A record? Good Lord, man, have you never heard of downloads?
And that was factually said by Winston Churchill. Moving on. This one is so stupid because it's not even a line. It's just me loving the way Matt Smith delivers things. He says, oh, 3 times in 3 different ways.
Oh. Oh.
And it's the third oh that I just find it so satisfying. It's so stupid.
Okay, hugging and missing now.
I wrote that one down because I love when he narrates what's happening. There are definite sort of quick vibe changes within scenes and you just kind of have to keep up, and I think sometimes he can't. This one is another moment where Amelia Pond absolutely devours. So she ate up the silence earlier when she said,
"You're ugly. Has anyone mentioned that to you?"
And then in this quote she says,
"The Doctor is very precious to me, you're right. But do you know what else he is, Madame Gavarian? Not here."
I personally don't support murder, but some context to who the person is that she's talking to. This woman kidnapped Amy, kept her in basically an induced coma all through her pregnancy, had Amy give birth, kidnapped her child, brainwashed her child, raised her child to be a psychopath, and then just sort of kept causing problems, and then killed her best friend. So while I don't support murder, you know, she kind of ruins it though. Like in the next 5 minutes of the episode, she's like, oh, I killed someone. And in fairness, it does happen in an alternate reality. So did she really kill her? Like, you know, she in the reality, in our universe, if you will, she didn't kill her because time is rewritten and it's, who cares? We don't need the context. But she absolutely devours that scene where she's like, do you know what else he is? Not here. Because this woman's like, the Doctor would save me. And she's like, yeah, he probably would. He's not here right now. And then later she kind of whines about it, which is fine. It's fine to have a conscience. It's fine. But this woman is horrendous. The stuff she does to Amy and just generally to her life is abhorrent. Like, my God. And then Amy's like, oh, I let her die. I didn't save her. It's like, yeah, but, you know, is that such a loss to society? We'll move on. Final line for this entire season is the moment where Amelia Pond realises that she is the Doctor's mother-in-law. I will play the clip.
Yes, and I was...
Mother-in-law.
Her face It gets me every time. It gets me every time. That is one of the funniest line deliveries. The way she just completely is like, ugh, what? It's so funny. Am I going to explain how she's his mother-in-law? No. Watch the show. You may watch it and still not understand, and that's okay. Quick shout out to this still of Alex. I just think she looks absolutely ethereal. If we're picking a line from this episode, I think it has to be, "And I'm his mother-in-law." I don't think any of them are quite hitting enough for me to pick it over that one. And that brings us to the very important final selection. These are the nominees for Best Line Delivery of Season 6 of Doctor Who. From Episode 1.
I'm being extremely clever up here, and there's no one to stand around looking impressed. What's the point in having you all?
Episode 2.
House, because why bother doing anything else?
Episode 3.
Comfy sofa.
Episode 4.
I had a PE teacher just like you.
Episode 5.
Halt and remain calm.
Well, we've halted. How are we all doing on the calm front?
Episode 6. Episode 7.
Good men don't need rules. Today is not the day to find out why I have so many.
Episode 8.
And look, the lift!
Episode 9.
They've knocked down the blocks I've been round and rebuilt them as bigger blocks.
Episode 10.
Everyone goes to number 1, Planet of the Coffee Shops.
Episode 11.
Something to add, Joe.
Episode 12.
Over redecorated. I don't like it.
And episode 13.
Listen, I was mother-in-law.
There are 10 lines from the Doctor, 2 from Amy, and 1 from Rory. I am surprised that we don't have any from River. The thing with hers is that she has such a beautiful voice and her lines are very melodic, but when compared against other lines, like a lot of the Doctors, they've got more layers sort of meaning-wise, and although this is judging delivery, when you deliver a line really well that has a lot of layers, it trumps a line that is delivered really well that doesn't have a lot of layers. Does that make sense? This feels really difficult. Oh no! Because why bother doing anything else is getting a solid 3rd place. There's something about the way he says that is so satisfying to me, and that's making a solid 3rd place. So that leaves me with the overall best line delivery for Season 6 of Doctor Who, in my humble opinion, is which means Episode 7's line gets a solid 2nd place. We have Episode 2's line in 3rd place. And then the rest of them, honestly, they deserve to be here. They deserve to be in the final showdown. This is such a strange video that I've made. This is what I spend my time thinking about. I am considering doing this for every season. If you've never seen Doctor Who, please watch it. It's so good. It's goofy as hell, but it's so good. If you have seen Doctor Who and you were surprised by any of the lines that I picked, or there are some that I didn't pick that you're like, where is this line? Let me know. Line delivery is so important to me and it makes or breaks a line, and there are some stupid lines in this show. When they're delivered the way that these actors manage to pull them off, it's just brilliant. I'm gonna go. I hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, comment, all of those YouTube things. Thank you so much for watching and allowing me to yap about one of my special interests. I'll see you in the next one.